Hello, this video is about the Pythagorean Theorem. The Pythagorean Theorem says that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This has a meaning geometrically, physically. If you were to have a square whose sides were a, then the area of this little square would be length times width, a times a squared. And so you can imagine that we might have another square whose sides were b, and a larger one whose area is c squared. The Pythagorean theorem is really cool and special because what it says is that if you take the area of a small square and add another square to it, you don't get some weird shape, you get another square. If you take these two squares and add them together, you get another larger square. These squares are actually a very specific length. The sides of this one, A, and the side here of B, and this side, C. If you take those three sides and make a triangle out of them, you always get a right triangle. So if we were to take those three sides, A, B, and C, and make a triangle out of the sides, that always makes a right triangle. And actually, the Pythagorean theorem for finding the length of sides only works if we have a right triangle. So this only works for right triangles, so we can use it to find the missing side. So if I have the right triangle, and I have the area of this one is a squared, and the area here b squared, adding them together gives me the larger area, c squared. Now, one of the main things that people mess up when they're doing the Pythagorean theorem is knowing which two pieces you add together to equal the third piece. Well, it always needs to be leg squared plus leg squared equals the hypotenuse squared. So it always has to equal that c squared is the hypotenuse. Just so you know, that's the one that's right across from a 90-degree angle, and that's the one that it has to equal. Now, not only can you use Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side of a triangle, you can also use it to classify triangles even if they're not right. If you take a squared plus b squared and you add them together and it equals to c squared, then you know for sure that it is a right triangle. But if c squared is actually larger than what you got for a squared plus b squared, then it's obtuse. It's an obtuse triangle. If c squared is less than a squared plus b squared, then it's an acute triangle. Let's look at some examples. Alright, let's see if we can use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side of this triangle. The first thing I need to do is figure out which side is my hypotenuse, because I need to say a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and that c needs to be the hypotenuse. So here's my 90-degree angle. Coming straight across from that 90-degree angle, I can see that this side must be the hypotenuse. So that means when I make my equation, I can say 20 squared plus 21 squared equals x squared. Alright, great, so now I just solved. 20 squared is 400, 21 squared is 441, adding them together is 841. Then to find x, we just take the square root of both sides. The square root of 841 happens to give me the nice even number of 29. Okay, so in this next example, the triangles are turned in a different way. So the 90 is here, so that means my hypotenuse is down here, the 20. Okay, so that means that I can say a squared plus b squared equals my hypotenuse squared. So 8 squared plus x squared equals 20 squared. 8 squared is 64, 20 squared is 400. Subtracting gives me 336. And the square root of 336 is not an even number, that's a decimal. 18.3. Okay, so that's using the Pythagorean theorem. Now we can also use it to classify triangles. So now, what kind of triangle is this? Is it a right triangle? Is it an obtuse triangle? Is it an acute triangle? When I look at this one, I can see that the largest number is 10. So I'm going to compare these to 10 squared. So let's see, how does 10 squared compare to, let's just say, versus 3 squared plus 8 squared? 100. And 9 plus 64 is 73. Since c squared is larger, that means that this is obtuse. Okay, let's look at this second one. Now we need to see if the two smallest numbers squared, how they compare to the largest squared. The largest number is 6, so how does 6 squared compare to versus 4 squared plus 5 squared? Well, 6 squared is 36, and 16 plus 25 is 41. So it looks like this time c squared is smaller than a squared plus b squared. That means that we have an acute triangle. Alright, so that's enough about sides. Let's look at some angles. Triangle angle sum. The interior angles of a triangle, they always add up to 180 degrees. No matter what triangle, no matter what size, if you take the three corners of a triangle and add them together, they make 180 degrees. Now 180 degrees is also a straight line like this, 180 degrees. So what this means is that if you take each of these corners of the triangle and add them all together, they should make a straight line. So that's straight across the bottom. So if you take this corner A and this corner B and this corner C, whatever the degrees are of that triangle, and add them together, A plus B plus C, all three of them together always equal 180 degrees. So that's what we're going to do in order to find the missing angle of a triangle. Okay, and it doesn't have to be a right triangle, it can be any kind of triangle for this. The angles always add to 180 degrees. So looking at this first triangle, well, this box down here means that I have 90 degrees. Okay, so I have 90, I have 30, so I can add in my head, that's already 120. How much more do I need to add to this to get to 180 degrees? I need 60 degrees more. So x must be 60 degrees. Okay, here in this one, they ask me to find what x is, but it's on the exterior of the triangle. In order to find out what that angle is, first let's find the angle on the inside of the triangle. So let's put a just a placeholder variable in here. Let's just say a. Okay, if I add 45 plus 47 plus a, that should equal 180. Okay, so to solve for a, I just need to subtract to the other side. Subtract 180 minus 45 minus 47. So subtracting that would give me a equals 88. So now I have 88 inside here. Now to find out what x is, I can use my second principle about a straight line always equaling 180. This is a straight line. So that means that these two things together, the x and the 88, are together making this straight line. So x plus 88 has to equal 180. Subtracting 88 to the other side, 180 minus 88 gives me 92. Okay, so now we've got these three corners of a triangle, and we know that all three corners add to 180. So we need to write an equation that says add this, plus this, plus this, all three of them equal 180. Alright, now we're just going to combine some like terms. 90 minus 1 plus 7 would be 96. And 8x plus 4x would be 12x. Subtract 96 to the other side, we have 84. And dividing by 12 gives us the final answer of x equals 7.